Hello, everyone, and welcome to the January 24th Product Analytics Group Sync. I will share my screen and we will get ahead with the board review. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Got a thumbs up, thank you. All right, so as far as open, there's just a brand new issue that I hadn't pinged Max on, but there's one that I've been going through old issues and I saw this one and I've been seeing reminders of it as I've been working through the cube schemas and such, but I thought it might be something to look at this milestone. Sorry to surprise you, Max, on this one, but I'm referring specifically to, go ahead.
I'd already started looking at that this morning. I just hadn't moved it into workflow and dev. Yeah, absolutely. I'll look at that. Yeah,
last week's work with getting Q working, I was just seeing a lot of references to Jitsi, and I knew we had an issue for it, but I just only found it today. So, anyways, cool. Well, looking at issues that have a workflow status, we've got the onboarding API to retrieve the state of the product analytics stack, as well as the LearnIt setup. These two have not changed since last week, so I will just skip over them. Someone feel free to interrupt me if we'd like to discuss them. Otherwise, we can look at the add dashboard items to group analytics submenu, which is blocked. I don't know if your point is
that shouldn't be on this milestone at all.
Okay.
I've just removed the milestone. That was my bad. It's because I copied metadata and forgot to remove it.
No worries. All right. And then moving on ahead, we have move GPC to a configurable option. This is still JS SDK work that we haven't really taken on yet, but we should definitely address that for the customer preview. And then I have one of many infrastructure issues that I need to actually get set up. But this is the data persistence issue with the Jitsi Redis services, specifically why when the Redis pods get rebuilt, they don't persist the data. Therefore, the configuration of the destinations, API keys, and so on gets lost, which is not good. So that's something I will be starting to work on later this week. We also have the renamed widgets to panels in alignment with the dashboards working group. Not assigned currently, but the working group has effectively decided on using the term panels to contain the visualizations. These are the containers within a dashboard. And so we need to rename any references of widgets to panels to make sure that we're all in alignment there. Moving on, we've got in dev. Jan, you have the first one for filters for dashboards date range.
Yeah, I'm currently working on that. It may be a bit more tricky than I initially thought because the dimensions for each different measure is going to be slightly unique. Like we can't use a Jitsi time dimension on a session's measurements. And for example, stuff like that. So I'm busy figuring that out. Hopefully I can create like a hash that maps to all the correct time dimensions. But yeah, it's going to be something that I think we'll continue working on going forward. Anyway, that's
my bit. We can, yeah, thanks for sharing. I wonder if across cube schemas, because measures are calculated dimensions, if I'm not mistaken, Max. So I wonder if we can be consistent with one naming of one measure across that to refer to for like date range. I don't know if that's an idea there.
Fine. I think they're all ISO timestamps, but I don't quote me on that. I'm happy to work through John if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think we just need to be consistent with our naming across the schemas so that we can just refer to one for dashboard level control. But we can play with that. Cool. We've got the internal preview dashboard issues from audience and behavior. I don't think the status has changed since last meetup. In that there's definitely some kind of polish and follow-up for UX issues here, though we have some separate issues. So it's like kind of a side note or referral to a later point in the agenda. Looking to try to make sure all the issues are organized and up to date. So maybe we can just close these out, or any specific follow-ups with regards to polish or bugs with these dashboards we can address in separate issues. Moving on, we've got adding dashboard items to the project's analytics submenu. Rob, you've got this one.
Yeah, started coding this today. There are wider discussions in the further agenda point around, which has led out from the conversations that have been had around this item, but the actual code for this should be fairly straightforward. So I'm hoping I'll have that out for review by tomorrow.
Awesome. And then we've got activate Jitsi privacy mode by default. Axel.
Yeah, so that's a tiny one. It is more of an educational experience for me. So I plan to have it moved to review today and maybe continue with the rest of the development kit. I forgot the word, but yeah, I'm going to continue with the other related issues.
All right. And then we've got the spike for determining a plan for product analytics export. Max, I just assigned this one to you since I know you've been working on this one. Anything you would like to call out here?
Thank you. Yeah, sort of finding a couple of potential ways we could do this. One of which is just, well, the details are on the issue, but one of which is using Cube to export basically a list of dimensions, which wouldn't require any infrastructure work. Alternatively, we can use ClickHouse to generate a CSV file and upload that to configured object storage. That's quite a lot more work and will require some infrastructure work as well. So yeah, there's options there, but we'll need to decide how far down that rabbit hole we want to go this early on.
Makes sense. Cool. Moving on, we've got in review. So we've got the add button to go back to tracking view from dashboard listing and lazy loading the product analytics query designer component. Axel, you have these two?
Yeah, both of them are hopefully getting the maintainer review today. So I'm hoping to get those closed fairly soon.
Awesome. And then Max, back to you for funnel analysis.
Yeah, this is done. There was a failing CI job yesterday. So the maintainer couldn't merge it. That's all sorted. So it's back with the maintainer. So hopefully it will get merged today. The maintainer's in America. So yeah, today or tomorrow.
Awesome. And then after this, it's more about designing, like looking at how we would design funnels in order to actually like run them against the schema.
Yeah, and building out that functionality a bit further.
Right.
So it only supports page views. And if we want to add other types, then we'll have to add support for that. But it's a relatively simple task at this point.
Got it. I'm just going to make a quick note of that.
And once that's merged, we'll be in a position whereby we can design a funnel, save the funnel within a repository, and use Cube to visualize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we'll start touching on the kind of funnels builder work, however we want to call that workflow, similar to the query designer. Cool, awesome, exciting stuff. We also got two issues in verification. Rob, you've got both of these, updating the product analytics documentation with all the feature flags needed, as well as adding the stack introduction to the product analytics docs. Anything you want to call out here?
Yeah, those are thanks to Lorena and Max for diving on reviews on that. I joined these up into one MR, waiting for it to hit staging, just so I can verify that the changes actually look how I expect them to look. They should do. And then I can close these off.
Awesome. And then just going to quickly check our bookmark, which is stack integration with staging and production. So we've got 6, I believe, new issues in the close column, so we can cover these. First one being enabling the single stat widget to round decimals and set default truncation. Anything we'd like to call out here?
Yeah, no, thanks to Sam for pushing that forward.
Awesome. And then we've got retrieving the product analytics router-based URI from the backend. Rob, anything you'd like to call out here?
Only that we're now a little bit more stable. It's a little techie bug improvement.
Got it. This is left sidebar organization for product analytics. This is closed, but I imagine this is because it's been upgraded somehow, or
yeah, it's been converted into an epic.
There you go. Okay. Alrighty. We have the tracking codes view for the onboarding and the route to tracking codes view once the stack has been initialized. Axel, anything you'd like to call out here?
Yeah, no, we have the full cycle now. We might need to polish a few things, but we are able to accomplish the onboarding from the UI. So yeah, excited.
Just in time for us to change how we get there, but we can discuss that later in the agenda. Cool. And then the last issue we've got is further encrypting connection details with the analytics stack integration. Max, anything you'd like to call out?
Which is done and in production. And I missed a not so edge case whereby if you hadn't ever set that value, then you could no longer save any application setting. So thank you to Dennis for picking that up and getting it fixed. But yeah, the issue is closed now and it should be encrypted in the database by default.
Good stuff. Alrighty then. Then I think that covers the board review, unless anyone would like to call anything else out. Anything missing from the board? I know there's a couple of I'd like to add, but yeah, that's a process. All right, then on to the actual agenda. I think I have a couple of points here. So yeah, as far as the kind of social budget stuff, I was thinking it's a little late for a Tuesday dinner, but this coming Thursday, perhaps for a social dinner for those in EMEA. That way, we can, then I think basically Sam and I can and perhaps Axel as well can join for a breakfast. If it's a social lunch, then I don't think I'm not going to have much of an appetite at 3 a.m. So I wanted to get people's thoughts on if they would be up for a social dinner on Thursday this week. Feel free to verbalize openly or respond in the doc.
I won't be able to, but please don't let me stop you. Yeah, unfortunately, sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to meet with you, and even if I don't really eat anything, even if I don't have an appetite, yeah, I'm happy to meet you folks.
Cool. Well,
Yeah, what I'm trying
to
say is that the timing is not an issue.
Yeah. All right, we'll respond on the agenda for everyone else. Otherwise, I'll send out the invite and we can go from there. Other than that, just wanted to, as you as the group's probably seen with the post to, well, I don't want to spoil Tim's point, but I was able to finally get the dashboards and query designer API calls to work in production. They are not working in staging, which we'll get into that, but basically that means we require clusters for every environment, which is a reasonable expectation. But thanks to everyone's hard work, we've officially, got a end-to-end solution working in .com, even for an internal preview. That's really, I mean, it's for an internal preview, but it's that will be what we use for all of our future milestones. That's a huge achievement for us.
Yeah, awesome job to everyone on that. Having something end-to-end real at this point, I mean, this is a huge milestone, so we should all be very proud, very excited of what we've achieved together.
And thank you, Tim, for spearheading the query designer work and pretty much taking that on entirely on his own.
Thank you. Yeah, back to you all. Great work, everyone. This is really awesome to see this now really going from an event, seeing it straight on in the UI is a huge thing. And the other good thing, I think, for this group here is also that anything that we are going to get merged and moved into production is now really visible, and it's not anymore like should be great and should be working, but it's something that every change everyone here does should be also visible very soon. Then in production, we can really make a really nice impact. Well done, everyone.
Yeah, and to kind of give us a sneak preview into what that looks like in terms of visibility and direction, we want to start tracking custom events in the internal handbook. So we'll obviously be able to enhance the behavior dashboard for the internal handbook itself. We're also discussing how we can dog food and add analytics to our own features within .com and get really dog foody about it. And that also ties in with the enabling analytics on .com for people who have opted in specifically, so namely this group. So it's going to get pretty exciting there, and it'll be nice to see what we can, combining that with tracking how our features are being used. We can then see, who's used, or yeah, how we're using our own features. So that combined with the funnel workflow designer will be pretty exciting. So yeah, great work. Rob, you have the next point.
Yeah, and the big point it is too. Sorry, I've just been juggling a lot of different discussions and conversations, and I felt like it's probably about time that I brought it to the wider group, those who aren't following those issues, especially because the left side menu, adding that is sort of the next, I guess, quite a big deal for us, especially from a customer preview perspective, but also making it easier to access our content for the internal preview with people who want to check out what we've been doing a lot easier. And it makes our docs much simpler to read if we could just say, go to this dashboard item, this item. So a little update on where we are. We are adding, as discussed in the board, we're adding the menu dashboards menu item to this milestone. Right now, that's going to point to the product analytics dashboard that we've already created. But that will eventually, and it's going to be behind a feature flag, this menu item, and it will eventually point to a more shared location. Other left side menu items can configuration, funnels, experiments. Since we don't have a UI for that yet, we're not creating those, but there are issues created to set those up. So we're not going to forget about them. With the shared listing, there is a few conversations happening right now with those. One is with Matei, because all of our work hasn't had any a UX designer of any kind take a look. We're just sort of doing our best. So I involved Matei from Optimize just to make sure that what we're doing works for them, for Optimize in general, and what they're doing in terms of their designs for dashboards, because they're very nice. And so far, Matei is very positive with what we've done. There's a general idea of concept of tidying up the design, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a blocker for us to get that new page out. And Tim, did you want to vocalize your point, or do you want me to?
Yeah, no, this was really that, because I knew from foundations that they have now this pattern of the project like listing, so that's what I based it on very early. If Matei is happy, let's move on. Let's focus on the next things forward. We can polish and we will add most probably more things later anyhow. So
yeah, with Matei, I've asked Matei if he could put his great ability at design, I'll come up with use a different English word, to doing that polish, just to get that final 10% perfection. And we'll see what he says on that, but that the general concept is not a blocker now. At least we know that they are happy with the general idea, so we can proceed as is. In terms of the other point is, so in Optimize, they have a new feature that they're building out that's currently in private beta called exec dashboards. I didn't have time to find the link before this meeting. I apologize. Feel free to Google, or if anyone can find the link, chuck it in. That is situated on /analytics/dashboards on the group level, which is ideally where we would want to put our work, because we are doing a list of analytics dashboards. So logically, that makes sense. It's also in the code bases using the same naming. So there was also a conversation taking in that more general dashboards conversation around how to best to circumnavigate that complexity to keep up velocity. Tim's idea is actually a pretty damn good one. Just randomly thought of after a lot of conversation and being involved already. I don't know if anyone else, feel free to jump in. Anyone else that wants to have a conversation around that. It's around trying to find a place, a location that is consistent for everyone for the shared location for the dashboards. Eventually, what we plan on doing is having the shared dashboard where all YAML based and GitLab created dashboards can live in one location for users to easily locate these. Tim, do you want to vocalize your idea just to show how amazing it is?
Yeah,
how simple.
Yeah, it's simply leaving out the /analytics and going for dashboards directly. This feels a little bit like domain name grabbing in the 2000s. And yeah, I think this would make it even easier, because to be honest, I strongly believe that there will be more dashboarding stuff very soon. So Plan is already interested in building burn down charts for dashboards. Security having a couple of things. Value stream analytics has multiple topics in their designs that are not really value stream analytics, but are corresponding to it. So I can see us building the foundation. Also, the suggestion that Sam did yesterday is that we add a product category to the non-product items, so that we are basically the owner of dashboarding, and are happy to lead that. And I think this falls quite good. It makes it easier. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's probably the most sane solution right now. It slightly concerns me that we are taking over that / dashboards URI for groups and projects, which I know we say we're going to own the dashboards, but that might cause conflict further down the line. I don't know. Should be relatively straightforward, I guess, to migrate off, but we do need somewhere that is understandable from an engineering perspective and understandable from a user's point of view, whether they go through the URL or through a link. Sam, you had the next point, and then Dennis.
Yeah, I really like the simplicity of the / dashboards. To your point about a user's perspective, I think if someone's expecting to find dashboards, / dashboards is a great place to look for it. And since we are very early days on this, if anyone has some objections, we can revisit this topic if we do need to move it at some point in the future. So I like the dashboard suggestion.
Yeah,
Dennis.
I agree as well. I think the solution works, at least in the short term. My main point is that I still think Optimize still needs to move off of the analytics / dashboards one, because that's very general and very confusing. I would say if they're going to stay with that, but that's a conversation we can have with that group. So that's specifically for dashboards and putting it / dashboards, but for things like configuration or funnels or experimentation, are we still looking to put that behind analytics / or just making sure like this is just for the dashboard itself, right? Because we're not going to put like dashboard / funnels for when we actually add like the funnel workflow designer, right? Okay.
In terms of the configuration aspects, those are analytics specific. So I would say that it goes under analytics because you're configuring product analytics or VSA analytics and stuff. You don't necessarily, I assume you don't need configuration to create a dashboard necessarily, especially if it's a GitLab owned one.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that like this is specifically around the dashboard listing, and then we just put / dashboards for now. But yeah, I guess
I agree. We should move off analytics dashboards if possible, though, too.
Yeah. Cool. I guess I can follow up with Optimize on that.
They are included in this wider conversation.
They're in the thread, right? Yeah. So
Haim, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Haim,
thank you. Is included in the conversation. I don't think they've commented, but they have been copied into the conversation. So I'll update the conversation with the suggestion of using dashboards and start making changes from there. But other than that, I feel like I really appreciate everyone diving in on and listening to me rant. Worth saying, in tangent to all this, there's also discussion around the onboarding flow. As noted by Dennis earlier, we have a flow whereby someone goes to product analytics dashboards and it goes, oh, you're not registered yet. Go do your onboarding stuff. Here's the flow to set that all up. When we have a shared listing, that's not going to work. So I am working on coming up with some call to action concepts to get that onto the dashboard listing to make it as easy as possible for users to start using our work. Not a blocker at all for any of this, but I thought I'd point it out. The only thing that does block the customer facing preview is the menu item and getting that shared listing, but it sounds like we've got a way forward, which is what I wanted out of this conversation, so I appreciate it. If anyone has any questions or any further points, either say so now or let me know in group chat.
Just I have to jump into another one soon, but for the call to action, do you know what you'll be hooking into? Is it going to be the project level pointer, or like, I guess, how does the user get into that flow with the shared listing, or how do you plan, or how do you think of it right now?
A few different concepts. The most prominent one is following a similar vein to what we do for the merge request approval rules, where we say licensing compliance set up here, and it looks like a listing item on the approval rules, but isn't. So something along those sort of lines, having a call to action there, saying set up product analytics, link off to that. But you could also do a banner. You could have a empty state on the configuration page. There's a variety of different options that I'm going to take a look at.
Sorry, yeah, I'm not so much focused, or I wasn't asking about how like the presentation of it is like. What are we calling the API to see if there's any dashboard set up currently, or like what's going to prompt, what's going to be the trigger state for those, however it manifests itself, like the
Yeah, we're going
prompt
to
to
need,
actually configure it.
we're going to have to follow the same onboarding prompt that we do now.
Okay.
To make that decision, because we're going to need to be able to list our dashboards. We're going to have to hook into that listing somehow, aren't we?
Yeah. So we'll show however we decide to with prompts or empty state or whatever based on whether or not we get dashboards returned or not. Am I understanding that
whether the
correctly?
feature's
Okay.
enabled for their level of license, plus whether they actually have any dashboards registered in YAML configuration and stuff.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
Dennis, you've actually got the next point. Oh, no, wait, Tim, sorry. Tim, you had that. Apologies.
Yes. I posted the update in the CEO channel. I hope everyone has seen it. Thanks again also for all your work there in that thread. I recorded also an updated video for especially that one of 5 minutes. Thanks for the idea, Sam. Took me only 4 or 5 or 6 takes. I forgot I deleted them all. And this is also showing the YAML support. So the files that are currently saved for the customized dashboards are already YAML files, so that works. And a couple of UI updates. The other big thing is that on Friday, the project pointer for groups was merged, which means we can hand now this setting over to the dashboard editor and say, hey, here is a pointer to a project where you can save that stuff. And basically based on that, we can build already into the dashboard editor the loading and saving functionality of customizable dashboards from there on, which it would be a big step forward then to especially enable value stream analytics. Dennis, you had a point there.
Yeah, I'll just briefly touch on this since we're almost at time, but you'll be seeing pings from me from very old issues that everyone's created just to make sure that they're still relevant. Some are blocked, but now are unblocked because we've shipped dashboards, shipped some visualizations and things like that. So keep an eye out for that. At the same time, Sam and I will be working to create more issues based on the bugs and polish that we previously discussed, but as well as what needs to happen for the customer preview. Since we're kind of, we're nearing the end of what's remaining as far as issues in the internal preview epic. So we're kind of going to be approaching a little bit more ambiguity and lack of requirements. So we'll be working to clarify that. And then just as a read-only point, in addition to Sam's, I've kind of written down some rough findings on what I've put together or what I found during my time connecting Cube in production. So take a look at that if that interests you at all. There's a call to action there for those interested, but take a look. Other than that, we're at time. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to call out before we end? All right. Well, it's good to see everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and looking forward to seeing what we do next.
Thanks, folks.
Bye.